Well, hello everyone and happy Monday. It is digital host A.J. Wuest welcoming you all back to Before the Four, where I go through 48's top news stories before our 4 p.m. newscast. And of course, if you're new to Before the Four, I want to welcome you. And of course, if you are returning to the show, thank you so much for spending a little of your afternoon with me. Now, with all that said, let's jump into it. And kicking it off with some sports, 48's Carl Prather is live from Dallas, Texas on the very first day of the 2024 SEC Media Days. Today, LSU, followed by South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Vanderbilt were featured at the Media Days. Carl, thank you so much for jumping on Before the Four. How's it going out there?
AJ, my man, listen, that was an amazing introduction. I know that you are getting ready for the week as we prepare for SEC Media Days here down in Dallas. But, man, it's been awesome. Been a little warm. I think the air temperature here in the Lone Star State here in downtown Dallas is like 101 or 102 right now.
Woo, that's hot.
Luckily, we're indoors, so we don't have to worry about I know it's hot, buddy. We don't have to worry about the heat outside. We're inside the beautiful Omni here in downtown Dallas. Been a great time thus far as we kicked off day one of SEC Media Days.
Yeah, and Carl, you've been listening to head coaches all day. Out of the 4 squads that you've heard from today, which of the 4 would you say show the most urgency or they're the most ready to compete and really prove something this season?
You know, that's a really good question. You know, Shane Beamer from South Carolina always kind of brings the energy here to Media Day since he's been the head coach in Columbia, South Carolina for the Gamecocks of South Carolina. Very adamant about kind of getting the season going in earnest. You know, he's missing Juice Wells, who made the transition and transfer rather over to Ole Miss. Have a new quarterback in Robbie Ashford, an Auburn transfer that obviously we'll talk about a little later in moments. But Shane Beamer seemed like he had a lot of enthusiasm, and rightfully so. He's an energetic guy, but definitely seemed to bring the juice, bring the energy here today. I will say that LSU's Brian Kelly, always a stoic confidence with Brian, did a really good job just analyzing and recognizing the task at hand as they prepare for year 3 down in Baton Rouge as LSU looks to continue to have an upward trajectory within the SEC this season. Of course, they had the reigning the Heisman Trophy winner a year ago at Jane Daniels leave the program, obviously a top 5 draft pick within the NFL, headed to the Washington Commanders, but they still return a ton of talent. He had 3 young men that will look to fill that void, and now quarterback and starter Garrett Nussmeier, Mason Taylor at tight end, and then all-world do-it-all defender and linebacker Harold Perkins Jr. So I'll say the most energy, the most eagerness for the season to start, I'll give it to Shane Beamer, but LSU's Brian Kelly definitely seemed to have somewhat of a quiet confidence as we head into the upcoming football season.
Very cool. And staying on the topic of South Carolina as well, you mentioned Robbie Ashford, of course, the former Auburn Tiger. How would you say he should look for the Gamecocks this season?
Yeah, you know, it was very interesting. I think the first thing that kind of made literally everyone within the media room that we are in for the day kind of stand up and have their eyes a little wider open there was the fact that he said that Robbie Ashford has jumped up to 240 pounds at quarterback. Robbie, for those that may be new or familiar with college football here in the southeastern part of the country, played at Auburn for 2 seasons, a Hoover native, actually went to Oregon for his college career to play baseball, made a transition back to the Yellowhammer State, and was able to join then Brian Harson's staff, started a handful of games for Brian Harson's last season, and then made the transition to try and start and help to contribute under Hugh Freeze during his first year. But yeah, Shane Beamer mentioned 240 pounds for Robbie. The one big thing that I will take away from what Shane had to say to us within the media is that he's been a consummate teammate, been a first guy in, kind of the proverbial last guy out. out, has really worked hard at his craft to try to have a niche, or more importantly, carve a role within this Gamecock program this year. Going to be in a competition there with some other quarterbacks within that quarterback room. We don't know if he'll be the starter, but we do know that it's probably going to be a kind of a quarterback by committee early on, and Robbie, obviously with his athleticism and his run-throw potential to be able to help Shane Beamer in the Gamecocks this year.
Well, very cool. And Carl, with Oklahoma and Texas joining the conference this year, how excited are you to hear from them? I know Sooner coach Brent Venables, he will speak tomorrow, and Texas Longhorn coach Steve Sarkisian on Wednesday. But how excited are you to hear from those two SEC newcomers?
Well, listen, AJ, and for all of our viewers, it's always exciting when you kind of have new conference members, some proverbial new kids on the block within a conference after you've had so many teams within the institution within the league for quite some time. When you have two big brands like Oklahoma and Texas, it just obviously enhances the fabric, and more importantly, enhances the profile of the Southeastern Conference. And this is the very reason why we're here in Dallas today, to kind of celebrate these two new members. But yeah, when you hear Texas, when you hear Oklahoma and what they bring to the table, not only just from the football footprint, but obviously just all of their athletic programs across their universities respectively, it just enhances the value of the league as a whole. And I know that Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the Southeastern Conference, is very pleased with being able to add these two type of gigantic blue blood type programs in college football. And now obviously getting into what we should hear from Brent Venables and more importantly Texas's head coach Steve Sarkisian. Listen, Oklahoma making that transition gave Brent Venables a new 6-year contract extension during the offseason. A lot of people maybe have scratched in their heads a little bit about why the extension now relative to kind of having maybe of a show me type situation. But listen, with Oklahoma, we know Brent Venables is going to have a fantastic defense. Arguably has the best safety in the league, and Billy Bowman back on the back end has a fantastic linebacker there. Obviously, the question mark is with Jackson Arnold. What will he be able to bring to the table to kind of make this offense go and kind of enhance themselves respectively in Norman, Oklahoma? Big test early on in the college football season. Oklahoma going to make the trip to Neyland Stadium to take on the Tennessee Volunteers this season. That is a big game for one Josh Heupel as he welcomes in his alma mater. A little bad blood there. So we will know early on with Oklahoma what they will bring to the table. Also, a big trip to Jordan-Hare Stadium as well. And then as for the Texas Longhorns, look, they may be the most apt ready to contribute, and more importantly, try to reach the college football playoff again. They reached it a year ago. Steve Sarkisian has one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the league, in Quinn Ewers. Of course, Arch Manning in the fold may have the best depth of quarterbacks, not only in the Southeastern Conference, but the country. But I would imagine that both of these coaches excited not only to join a new league, but to be able to compete in what many argue, more importantly, think that is the best conference in college football in the Southeastern Conference.
Very cool. And Carl, what would you say you're most excited for down the stretch this week? Yeah,
I always say I'm always excited for the student athletes. SEC Media Days is kind of taking on a life of its own when you have so much kind of pomp and circumstance surrounding in the celebration of this league, and rightfully so. You win so many national championships. You're the forefront of college football. But the student athletes that get the opportunity to represent their respective institutions, that get to come to Media Days, get to dress up, wear their nice suits. A lot of these guys wearing really neat kicks. The coaches are excited. It kind of just, you can see the smiles on their faces because they know that the college football season is literally right around the corner. So I'm always happy for others. It is really cool to be able to see these young student athletes be able to kind of see the bright lights and see the media fabric of what we have to do each and every day here for the 4 days that we're here. So that's a fun part. And then obviously, of course, for us here at the Yellowhammer State, I'm excited to hear from Auburn and Alabama. Of course, Alabama will get the day started on Wednesday. They're their headliner. Kalen DeBoer making his debut for SEC Media Days. Really weird to see Nick Saban around with a credential on instead of being a coach walking the halls with his respective team. It was very funny. A side note earlier this morning, SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey mentioned that Nick Saban actually tried to walk through the credential points here within the facility, and the facility managers wouldn't let him in. They said, I know who you are, but you still got to go get your credentials. So Nick Saban, including Nick Saban, arguably the greatest coach in all of college football, had to go back to his room, get his credential to be able to get through, as we like to say, the black ropes here as we got our SEC football festivities underway. So, yeah, those are the big ones for me. Student athletes being able to just enjoy this moment. Auburn and Hugh Freeze as he prepares for his second season down on the Plains. And then, of course, Kalen DeBoer as he makes his debut for what we consider the GOAT in Nick Saban here for Alabama this week.
That's right. Well, it sounds like there's very tight security out there, that is for sure. But finally, Carl, for anyone watching at home right now, what is the best way for them to stay in the know and to follow our coverage from the SEC Media Days?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you asked that, AJ, man. We've have a number of ways that you can kind of just lock in with us throughout the week for all things SEC Media Days. Obviously, number one, we will have you covered throughout all of our newscasts throughout the week. We will be in all of our shows. Today, my teammate and weekend sports anchor Cam Durr was involved in our noon show. You'll hear from her momentarily during the 4 o'clock show and the 5 o'clock show. We'll be together live at 6 just to recap kind of the X's and O's. Cam is going to kind of give you some behind-the-scenes moments of today and some of the happenings going on in SEC Media Days, including for college football video game players like myself that's been playing this game since 2008. The EA college football game comes out today for early release today at 4 o'clock, just went live. Every player, and I'm not kidding, AJ, for our viewers, every single player has discussed this game. The players literally are excited just to get back to their respective campuses because most part, everyone that's here today, they're flying back via private charter to their respective campuses. Everyone's excited to go back and play and just be on this game all night. I'm ready to get back and play. When I get back home this weekend, I'll be all over it as well. But EA Sports College Football has been the talk with the players for sure today as well. But, back to just obviously ways that you can watch us. All of our newscasts will have you covered, but the really cool part is that July 1st, for our viewers, we launched our 48 Sports Zone app. An incredible app. We try to give you all of the up-to-date news regarding North Alabama and the Tennessee Valley. That's what we bring to the table, and we have a tab specialized just for SEC Media Days this week. We have content on as we speak. You can hear excerpts from the coaches that have been on hand today. LSU's Brian Kelly, one of those headliners, Lane Kiffin from Ole Miss, also South Carolina's Shane Beamer. And a little after the 4 o'clock hour, Clark Lee, the Vanderbilt head coach, will also be in the house. You'll hear from him later on today, along with the State of the League address from Commissioner Greg Sankey as well. That's all on our 48 Sports Zone app. You can download that right now, folks. That's on either your iOS or store or your Google Play Store is where you can find that app. But feel free to download it. You can get all the content and info that you need, but more importantly, you can be able to give us maybe a 5-star review. So super, super excited about that as well. So super happy about that as this pretty bald-head man named Cole Kublik, national sports college football reporter, give me some funny faces and stuff as well. But it's been a fun time here. Good to fellowship with fellow media members and reporters, AJ. But we're here to kind of give you, obviously, as much content as we can to kind of get everyone ready. We should all celebrate. I need some confetti. I don't know. Streamers, just to get excited about college football as we get ready for the unofficial start this week here in Dallas, Texas.
Sounds like you are having an absolute blast. But Carl, thank you so much for joining in with me today. It's always a pleasure having you on.
Hey, listen, AJ, I want to say good job to you, man. You've done a fantastic job.
Oh, thank you so much. And make sure, for anyone watching at home right now, you all stick around for all the Before the Fours this week, as Carl will be making more live appearances from the SEC Media Days in Dallas, Texas all week. So make sure you all stick around. Now, let's jump into news, and let me pull up this box for you all. Here we go. But now in news, today former President Donald Trump announced his vice presidential running mate as J.D. Vance from Ohio. Over the weekend, Trump was shot in the ear at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, ahead of the Republican National Convention, which is starting today and will last until Thursday night in Milwaukee. Earlier today, a Florida judge dismissed the classified documents indictment against the former president. NBC's Bree Jackson has the latest on Trump from Milwaukee. Let's take a listen.
Today, an unexpected legal victory for former President Trump as the Republican National Convention gets underway here in Milwaukee. The Florida judge overseeing his classified documents case dismissed the indictment against him on the grounds that the appointment and funding of special counsel Jack Smith was illegal. Now, a source tells NBC News that Trump was surprised by today's decision. In a statement, the former president praised the dismissal, saying it should be a first step, and he said that the other cases against him should be dismissed too. Now, as you may recall, Attorney General Merrick Garland appointed Smith as special counsel back in 2022 to oversee the federal investigations, including Trump's handling and retention of classified documents. Now, Jack Smith can still appeal this ruling, but all of this comes just days after the former president survived an assassination attempt. So security here at the Republican National Convention, it is ramped up, and it is already a concern. Now the convention gavels in this afternoon. Then we expect the roll call vote today, and that's when the former president will formally be nominated. In Milwaukee, Bree Jackson, NBC News.
Thank you, Bree. And in case you missed it, yesterday 48's Daquan Lee spoke with a former FBI agent in Huntsville on the assassination attempt over the weekend. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
As the FBI and Secret Service continue to peel back the layers into how former President Donald Trump was nearly assassinated, I got a chance to speak to a former FBI agent who says weeks of planning go into making sure events like political rallies are safe. It's all hands on deck for the Secret Service and the FBI as the fallout from Saturday's attempted assassination continues. Kerry Straub is a defense contractor and former FBI agent. He says there's plenty to consider when securing any kind of special events.
Routes in and out, to access to the venue site, who has access to the venue site, also to credentialing folks coming into the site, and also where the site is, and it can be whether it's an inside venue or an outside venue, and each venue is different.
Straub couldn't say if yesterday's deadly shooting was a failure of the Secret Service. He says there's still too much that we don't know regarding who the shooter was and how he got so close to the former president.
The FBI has the initial, they have sole jurisdiction on an assassination or assassination attempt on the president. So they will investigate what occurred, conduct the investigation. The FBI does not look into what Secret Service did or did not do.
He also says one part of the FBI investigation will include whether the shooter was a part of a group that had already been on their radar or if he acted alone. He adds that shooters who act on their own are hard to detect. He says the infamous 2010 triple murder at UAH is a perfect example.
We had it here with Amy Bishop, right? Amy Bishop was a lone wolf here at UAH. And who would have ever predicted that Amy would have done what she did at the university?
Thank you, Daquan. Now in Madison County, where 2 are dead after a wreck happened this morning. Authorities say the wreck happened on Winchester and Shady Oak Roads near Buckhorn High School just before 9 a.m. Don Webster with HIMSI confirmed that 2 were killed and another injured from the wreck. It is unknown at this time the condition of the person injured. Both lanes of Winchester were closed off for several hours, and the identities of the victims and the cause of the wreck have not been released at this time. And staying in Huntsville, today the Von Braun Center announced a concert that will pay tribute to legendary singer-songwriter Dean Dillon. On October 9th, artists like George Strait, Vince Gill, Riley Green, Ernest, Justin Moore, Jamie Johnson, and many others will take the Probst Arena stage. Dean Dillon, a 3-time Grammy Award nominee and more than 24 #1 singles to his songwriting credit. Dillon has written 55 songs for George Strait alone. Dillon was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2020. Now, tickets to the concert will go up for sale at the VBC box office or Ticketmaster this Thursday at 10 a.m. Prices start at $125. And 48's Callie Neese will be bringing you all the latest on the concert series coming up at 4. So make sure you all stick around for any updates Callie might have on this event. And let's take a listen to what Dean Dillon had to say earlier about it.
Yeah, the riders in the round night's going to be a blast. Yeah. It will, because you'll understand how crazy you have to be a songwriter. You know, I've found over the years that when you do that, people just become more involved. They want to know the who, what, where, when, and why.
Sounds like a very cool concert indeed. But now let's talk about the stories you're just not going to want to miss. The latest on the Birmingham shootings over the weekend that left 7 dead, previewing the RNC, Trump's VP pick, and updates on the attempted assassination. And finally, a new blood drive happening next week here in the Huntsville area. These are all just a few stories you're just not going to want to miss in our evening newscasts. You're also not going to want to miss the latest forecast from 48 First Alert Chief Meteorologist Mr. Brad Travis to stay in the know of how the weather might pan out this week. Now it is time for our Facebook fun, of course. And let's see what today's question is. Let's pull it up. And of course, in honor of SEC Media Days, we had to ask which of the 2 in-state SEC teams is your team, and that is Alabama or Auburn. Let's see what you all had to say. Kim Cagle said Alabama. Thank you for commenting, Kim. Scott and Susan Hall said Auburn. Thank you. John R. Bate said Hotty Toddy. That didn't answer the question, John, but thank you so much for commenting. Staying in the SEC, Jasmine said go Vols. She's a Tennessee fan. Nick Simmons said UAB, go Blazers. And finally, Rhonda said nothing but the Tide. Rhonda, thank you so much for commenting. Anyone who commented, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. But that is just about all the time I have in today's Before the 4. I want to thank you so much for sticking around with me and spending a little bit of your Monday afternoon with me. If you haven't done so already, make sure you download the 48 digital app, the 48 First Alert weather app, and the newly launched 48 Sports Zone app to stay up to date with all the breaking news. And you'll get it delivered directly to your phone if you turn on those push notifications. But that's all the time I have today. Of course, I want to thank you all for watching. There we go right there. And I hope you all have a great night.